do is my session is about the growth strategies for early stage SaaS companies. And like Varshini mentioned, right, I am part of DigitalOcean and I lead our go-to-market strategy there. And what I want to do is maybe spend a couple of minutes upfront giving you an overview of what DigitalOcean is, because that's important to understand some of the strategies that I will be discussing as we go along. Again, feel free to drop in any questions. I hope to leave a couple of minutes at the end for your questions. So keep this interactive, right? For some of you who might already know DigitalOcean, we're a cloud infrastructure company. We were founded in 2012. That's about 8 years back and headquartered in New York. And for SaaS companies, primarily, we also have a measurement of what a Net Promoter Score is. This is a measure of how likely are your users and customers to promote you to others through word of mouth. And for that NPS score, DigitalOcean is about 60%, 60 plus, which is really high in the SaaS business, right? Even really big companies like Apple and Amazon, they feature in the 60 to 70 kind of range. And so that's really something that we pride ourselves in. As a cloud infrastructure company, we have data centers, 13 data centers in about 12 regions. We have 500,000 plus active customers. We put out a lot of tutorials, and that's important for you to note, because that's something that I will reference as we go along when I talk about some of the growth strategies that have helped us grow in the market today. We have customers in 75 plus countries. We have employee base of 500 plus. We are close to 600 across the world, and some funding that we've raised over the last couple of years. So as a company, we focus on developers, startups, and SMBs, and how we differentiate ourselves, especially in the cloud space where there are big cloud players, right? And I don't need to name names. All of you are aware of the cloud giants. So DigitalOcean operates in this space from a very different point of view. We try to bring in simplicity to the cloud offerings, how to make cloud really simple for startups and SMBs without adding a lot of like products, features, and complexity, including billing and transparency that we want to bring in to this entire cloud infrastructure space. Also from a space of community, right? So as a company, we are very focused on building communities. That is through developer engagement, developer communities, and developer education, right? Also from a service perspective, we want to be what we call ourselves a human company, right? In an age where most companies want to sort of automate their support operations or have bots respond to customer queries, we want our service to be really differentiated, to be human and heartfelt. And finally, as a company, we are very pro open source. We use a lot of open source internally, and we support a lot of open source projects. And that really also differentiates us in the market, because some of our competitors or other operators in this space really focus on proprietary software and licensing for use of their software. This is sort of like a snapshot of our product portfolio. One thing that probably stands out for you is how when we started off, we were a one product company, right? And this is for many of the startup founders in the audience that we might have today. A lot of times when we are starting off, we think we need to launch like multiple products and multiple features at the get-go, right? What we have seen at DigitalOcean is, as long as you have a great product market fit and you have one product that actually solves customers' problems, you don't need to introduce like all the products and features. What we have done is we launched something called over the
I think there's a small lag. Mohan, are you able to hear me? Hello? Yeah, are you able to hear me, Mohan? Yeah, there was a small lag in the last this thing.
Okay, got it. So sorry. Map of our global data center presence. In India, we have a Bangalore data center and another one in Singapore. We have a couple of data centers in the Europe region, in London, Amsterdam, and Frankfurt, and also in San Francisco, New York, and Toronto. As a company, our priorities are to really support our customers with exceptional experience in onboarding, reliability, and innovation, and also to invest that in infrastructure and broaden our capabilities to support our customers' growth. And also we focus on culture, because both internally and how we interact with our customers and partners. Having said that, I want to get into the meat of my topic today. So that was a quick overview of what DigitalOcean is. Some context as I discuss some of the strategies that have worked very well for us, and hopefully some of you in the audience might have one or two key takeaways that you might be able to actually test out in your own businesses, right? I want to introduce a concept called growth loops. Some of you might be aware, but I want to, and I will be using the concept of growth loops a lot as I speak, right? So earlier, when we looked at the marketing funnel or the sales funnel, right? All of us had a traditional sort of an image of what the funnel looked like. Typically, at the top of the funnel, we had acquisition, which is customer acquisition, and then activation. It could be through a link, where the customer signs up for your service, then you activate them, and then there is retention, where you're trying to engage with the customers. There is referral, getting your existing customers to bring in more customers, and then revenue. Hopefully, bottom of the funnel, everything that you're doing from top of the funnel is actually leading to meaningful revenue for you, right? So that was the traditional marketing funnel that we all were aware of. Couple of years back, four gentlemen whose names are mentioned below, they came up with the concept of growth loops, right? So basically, they reimagined the marketing funnel and said, probably it's not like that, especially to sort of describe and explain the exponential growth a lot of SaaS businesses were seeing. They introduced the concept of growth loop, where they said, what you see on the right side here, right? It's more circular. They say you have a new user, you bring on a new user, which is your acquisition, and then that user takes an action or performs a step, and that has a certain output, which further brings in more users, right? So this is the concept of a growth loop, which is able to some extent, explain the rapid growth of a lot of like SaaS businesses that we see around the world. So I'm going to use this concept and describe a couple of growth loops that we used internally at DigitalOcean. So there are four growth loops that I'll probably discuss. One is called the content loop. The other is a referral loop. The next one is paid ads. And the final one is Teams loop, which is more a product feature, right? I know this slide might be a little busy, but I'll break this down in the coming slides, so it's a lot more clearer, right? And the concept of growth loops is that you don't need to have just one loop. I mean, even one loop just works, but also a lot of companies also have multiple loops working together, right? So let's understand this in a little bit more detail. I'll be spending a lot more time on the content loop, and some of the other loops we'll quickly discuss, and I'll give you a lot more examples with how we do content, right? And some of you might be aware, like how content marketing in itself is a sort of like a subfield within the whole marketing field, right? And many of you might have already thought of like using content in some way, writing LinkedIn blogs or your own company blogs on your website, which attracts users. So that's something that DigitalOcean did. To explain the concept of the content loop, we'll start at the right, top right. Here you have content where new users come and visit the content that you posted. And what we saw at DigitalOcean was it led to people signing up for our services once they've consumed that content. Right, a percentage of the people who actually view that content will convert into a lead, become a customer, or even just become a part of your community, right? And then they distribute the content, and you continue to add more content via existing search and social channels. And what that leads to is your existing audience or community people, you sort of engage and incentivize them to amplify the content. This could be by sharing that content with other people who might find it useful. Basically, what that does is increases the probability of your content being seen by a lot more other people, and that automatically increases search engine visits, and you have more people coming and finding your content on Google. That leads to more visitors, and then the loop continues, right? So that's basically the content loop. At DigitalOcean, early on, we realized we wanted to put out a lot of great content and very developer specific content, right? We realize our audience is developers and they care about learning and sharing. So we started putting out content that was useful for this community. As of today, we have 4,000 plus tutorials published, and these are not necessarily DigitalOcean specific tutorials, right? We write about anything that is useful for the developer community, and sometimes these are not necessarily discussing DigitalOcean products, right? So 4,000 plus tutorials that we have published, and what that is doing is bringing about 3.5 million people, unique visitors to our website month on month. And an interesting fact is about 49% of our customers have read a tutorial before they signed up, right? So that's like 50% of probability of a user who consumed your content before signing up, which is a testament to the fact that content really works. Some of the key lessons we've seen by building this content loop and using it internally is quality is always really important more than quantity, right? And then the next one is hiring the right team and leveraging the community. I'll talk about each of these in a little more detail as we go along. So quality is more than quantity. I don't need to describe that, right? If you're putting quantity, what really you should be thinking about is how can I put out quality content that is there for the long term, that is fresh content, that is reusable content and shareable content, right? So internally at DigitalOcean, we have certain guidelines. We say our philosophy is that we want to write content that or tutorials. These are step-by-step procedures to do a certain activity, right? To install a certain kind of an app, to use a certain programming language, to get some work done, right? So these are our tenets of our philosophy. We make no assumptions about the reader's background knowledge of the subject. So we really put out from a basic beginner level. So that really forces us to think, make it really simple and think from a beginner's point of view so that we're not using a lot of jargon and making it complicated. So we want to keep it really simple. The next one is explicitly spell out each step as much with as much clarity as humanly possible. Really do it step by step, and that's what our users actually really always appreciate. And we test out our tutorials on a fresh server because sometimes it's easy to assume that something works for you on your system, works for end users. So our tutorials are all tested and we keep updating it, right? Because content has to be updated, otherwise it gets really outdated. And finally, it should be able to be understood by any smart user. So those are basic tenets of our philosophy. And this is some of the feedback that we get on a daily basis from people who use our content and really rave about content and how they couldn't get their work done without our tutorials, right? The next one is hiring the right team. In DigitalOcean, we have an interesting story that our first employee was not necessarily a person with sort of like developer experience. She was an English major. So our founders actually gave her the Linux command line book and said, go write tutorials, right? What that forced way of thinking is really thinking from even a non-technical person, kind of like really spelling it out, as long as they're passionate about technology, even if they don't have the right sort of like hands-on experience, they are able to better empathize with end users who are probably beginners, right? So I think Itel really built out our community team over time, and that is really reflected in the philosophy and how we think about our tutorials, that any smart user should be able to use it. They need not have an extensive developer experience. And finally, leverage the community. As a team, there is only so much that you can put out content, right? Internally, we have an editorial team of writers who put out content, but we are able to really produce high quality content and in large numbers. We have 4,000 plus tutorials because we leverage our community. Internally, we have a program called Write for Donations, where if you are a person who's enthusiastic about writing articles and tutorials, we encourage you to write that and we pay you, but we also donate $200 to $300 for tech nonprofits of your choice. So it's a great way to engage the community as well as do some good. And also question and answers. We have a question and answer section on our platform where our end users come and actually respond to questions posed by our customers, right? So that's a great way of content that is generated by end users, and we don't have to have an internal team that is kind of putting out a lot of answers to this. That's another way of leveraging the community, right? And next is Hacktoberfest. We just wrapped up our seventh edition of Hacktoberfest, and some of you might have participated in it. It's the biggest hackathon where a lot of open source developers participate in the month of October by contributing to other open source projects. So that's also a great, another community initiative which helps us kind of continue our support for open source and generate a lot of open source content. The next loop I want to kind of talk about is the referral loop. One of the more famous programs that we have at DigitalOcean is the referral program. This is pretty simple. All of you know how referral programs work, right? There is a new user who comes, who signs up for your service. They get a referral code. Once they pass on that referral code, then a new user gets certain free benefits. In our case, we provide them about $25 worth of cloud credits, or right, to test out the platform. In fact, they actually get a $50 cloud credit to test out a platform for 30 days. And then when they finish their trial period and they start spending on DigitalOcean, the person who referred them gets $25 in credits when this person spends $25. So that's the referral program that we've had. It's a super successful program in terms of bringing new users to DigitalOcean over time. And in fact, we have people who earn like thousands of dollars in referral credit. So that's something that you could potentially use at your business as well. How do you kind of have a good referral program? The next is paid ads. Paid ads is pretty simple again, right? So you put out certain ads that speak to your audience, right? And then we all know, like platforms like social media, like Facebook, Instagram, they all support paid ads. So as long as you support, put out some paid ads, new users kind of who are interested in your offerings come and click that, and they sign up for your service, which means they test out your platform. And then once you bring new users onto your platform, you reach a certain critical point where these users are again contributing to fund more paid ads, okay, right? And in SaaS businesses, we know the CAC to LTV. As long as the CAC to LTV ratio is small, which means your cost of acquisition is kept small, and these users continue to spend, they themselves will fund more, give you more dollars for your paid ads, right? So that's the paid ad referral loop that that has worked successfully for us, and you know, some of you might consider trying out as well. And the final one is team accounts loop. This is a more product specific kind of a loop that we have at DigitalOcean, where we introduced the concept of team accounts. Earlier, it used to be one user per account, and then over time, we introduced a product feature called team accounts. So we have, when a user signs up to DigitalOcean, they can create a team account and invite other their team members, their colleagues, to join their team accounts, which means those users will now have to create their own accounts, which leads to more users coming onto our platform, right? So as you build out your products, there will also be a possibility for you to add features that within your product itself encourage a lot more people to kind of come and lead to growth, right? So that's the team accounts loop that we have. And that's all I pretty much wanted to cover, right? So different kinds of loop that lead to growth, which is more users signing up for your platform. And some of these could work together, right? For example, the content loop could be about content, but you also have like a referral link that is part of your content that you post. And that is the content loop and the referral loop working together. So that way, these could work separately, but also in conjunction. So feel free to test out some of these and see whether that works for you. Finally, at DigitalOcean, we want to continue serving developers as they build their modern apps. We can take some questions now if there are questions, but and also I wanted to leave this with all of you listening in. If you want to test out DigitalOcean, right, this is the sort of like a free trial offer that I was also talking about. If some of you want to test out our platform, you can sign up on do.co/SaaS and get $100 worth of free cloud credits to test out our platform and see for yourself. with that, we can now take questions, Varshini.
So one of the first question that I have, so Vineet Reddy is just curious to know about the approach in providing human-operated service. So how do you work on scaling? So as increasing resource count alongside customer count may actually keep the margins consistent, and we risk running into growth issues.
Yeah, correct. No, that's a great question, right? As a company, we are much smaller in scale. So this is really top of mind. How do we kind of scale human support while keeping our operation costs limited, right? We've been able to do this because there are limited channels of support that we provide. Like some companies try to diversify. They want to provide email support and phone support and chat support. So that way they kind of diversify. For us, we provide support primarily on email. So we are able to really focus and be able to respond to customers in a much more faster fashion, right? So typically we promise, like if somebody reaches out to us, within 15 minutes, they get a response, the first time to response. So that way, we've been able to a great extent, keep our cost minimum. There are limited channels of support, but also because it's email, we are able to kind of really, we have multiple shifts, people working multiple shifts where they're able to respond to some of these questions in a much faster fashion. Outside of that, because we also have the Q&A section, right? That's something that I was talking about, which is completely community driven. Our end users come and put in questions there, and our existing users respond to questions from others. So though we have a smaller support system in place, our existing customer base itself acts like a support system. They are helping out each other and responding to each other's questions. So that's another way we are able to scale.
So majorly you're like educating your customers really well, and they educate the others, and it just goes on, the loop goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And as developers, right, we put out this whole lot of content, which is a great way of education. And developers love learning new things, but also helping out each other. So that works for us in terms of like how the community supports itself.
Okay. So the next question that I have is, where and how did you find your first 100 users? How did that happen? Is it through maybe paid partnerships, or how did everything just start? The first customer base.
Yeah, I think sure. That's a great question for our founders, probably. I think earlier, I think when we started, I mean, that's really the first 100 users is your MVP, right? You're trying to find your product market fit. We recall, I think there was a very simple website that they put out and which had few key USPs, what we were trying to solve. Spin up a server in less than 55 seconds at $5 a month, and SSD servers. So it's like really high performance systems. So those were the three kind of call outs that they had, saying, this is our USP and this is why you should use.
I'm so sorry, Mohan, there's a small lag right now. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We lost you for briefly, but now I can hear you.
Great. I'm so sorry.
So I was saying, I think for us, it was users finding us. Got it. Okay. Users probably found us because we had those key USPs on our website, and that really spoke to them.
Okay, great. And according to you, do you believe that growth always depends upon the number of investments you get, or maybe the bigger customer base? Which do you think? As a company growth, which would you?
Could you repeat the question?
So the question is, according to you, is the growth always depend on the number of investments you receive as a company?
We're talking about funding, right?
Yeah, funding.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to a great extent, I think sometimes when you want to make like some really big bets, then the funding really helps. But as long as you're a self-sufficient revenue generating system, you'll still be able to take a lot of like good risks without actually raising investments. But in some cases, in our case, if I were to specifically speak about DigitalOcean, we are in a very capex heavy kind of a business, right? Because we are talking about servers, which is hardware that you have to procure, internet costs and cooling costs and data center costs. So for our business, probably having some sort of like funding really helps if you're looking to scale and set up data centers and support global customers. But if you're a pure play SaaS business, then I think as long as you found your paying users and you're generating sufficient revenue, you will be able to take sufficient bets without necessarily going the funding route.
That's great. Well, then, thank you so much, Mohan. It was a great session. I mean, I never knew a small word loop can have a lot of insights within it, and it was great. I mean, it was really great. Thank you so much for your time. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks for, yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.